Hey, campfire crew, let's get it on. The Uber Driver Who Wanted Me for Himself by Scorpio Crown. English is not my first language, and I'm writing this on my phone, so I apologize in advance for any mistakes. This happened 7 years ago while my former relationship was ending. I was 27 years old at the time. Me and my ex-boyfriend weren't living together anymore. We were separated for a few months, but not quite broken up yet. I had just found out from his twin brother that he was keeping me as a backup while having fun with other girls, so I decided to end things. It was my birthday. I was a bit emotional about the whole situation, so I decided to go to his place and end it properly, face to face. I took an Uber and went to the other side of the city, very far away from where I live, and in a not-so-friendly or safe area for girls. I got there. We talked and ended things on good terms, given the situation. Now it was time to call an Uber and go back home. This happened in November on a rainy night at about 2 a.m. My ride came, I got in, and I was just looking out the window and thinking. After 5 minutes or so, I noticed that my Uber driver was looking at me in the rearview mirror every second when he could take his eyes off the road. I brushed it off. This wasn't the first time that it happened, and I was honestly too sad to care. But then I noticed that he slowed down. A lot. That was when I started to pay attention to my surroundings, but without giving him the sensation that I was doing so. I noticed that he was a thin and tall guy, 25 or 30 years old. He looked like he wasn't taking very good care of himself, and his car was actually pretty dirty. I was just hoping to get home safe and fast at that point. Then, out of nowhere, he started talking. "You are beautiful." I said, "Thanks." "What's your name?" I gave a long pause and then I whispered my name. I realized that he could see it in the Uber app anyway. Then he said, "What a hot name. I've always wanted to have sex with a girl named blank." I just sat in terrified silence. Then he was just staring at me in the rearview mirror. He started talking and rambling without pause, but expecting clear responses and reactions from me. "Do you have a boyfriend?" "Yes." "What a shame. I wanted you for myself." I again sat in silence. "But I don't mind the boyfriend. Let's go somewhere else. Come on, change the address in the app, 'cause I can't. Only you can. I know a place where we can go be alone and smoke some weed." "No," I said, "I can't. Take me to the address from the app." At that point, I started to pay close attention to the route he was taking. I was so ready to jump out of the car if the situation got really dangerous. Then he put on a local rap song which I'd never heard before. The lyrics were very explicit, describing what the singer does to a girl during sex. And I mean extremely explicit lyrics. "You hear that?" said the driver. "That's how having sex with me would be like. Oh yes, I would totally lick you like that and pull your hair until you can't even scream anymore. You'll love it and come back begging for more." Again, total silence. At that point, I started messaging my ex and telling him what was happening. It was also a good excuse to not have to look at my driver or reply. He still said, "What do you think about that?" I kept silent, texting my ex. Then he yelled, "I asked you, what do you think about that?" My heart dropped and I froze. Well, I haven't heard this song before." "Do you smoke weed?" "No." "Smoke a joint with me." "No, thank you." "Are you home alone? I could call it a night and go to your place and show you what I'm talking about." My heart was racing so bad at that point. I was so scared and shaking. I was home alone, actually living alone. I decided to start recording him from there on, sending the recording to my ex. I said, no, my parents are waiting for me. Oh, that sucks, man. But we could stay in the car. I'll join you in the back seat. We'll find a spot where it's dark. No, I need to go home. I'm tired. Come on. I'll make you come 3 times in 10 minutes. Trust me. Where did I put my weed? After he started searching for it, my ex listened to this part and called me. I was so relieved when I saw my phone ringing. I answered, and I made sure that the driver would hear that I was on the phone with someone. He kept on talking, but I didn't hear much because he seemed to be upset about my phone call, and he was mostly talking to himself. My ex was furious, but told me to say out loud things like where I was, when I was getting home, as if he was asking me and I was answering. And other stuff, like my mom texted me and is waiting for me, and to say that I will call him when I get home, etc. I ended the phone call, and the driver asked me if that was my boyfriend, and I said that it was. He kept silent for about 5 minutes, and I was so anxious to get home. We had like 5 more minutes before getting to my address. When he saw on the map that we were getting close, he started asking me again to go somewhere or stay in the car with him, to smoke with him, to tell him everything about me and my life, that he thinks he fell in love, and to break up with my boyfriend. His speech was getting scarier and scarier, and he was getting more and more anxious that he couldn't convince me. He was turning to look at me, stop at green stops, so he could turn to me. After what seemed like forever and after shaking like a leaf, when we got in front of my building, I practically jumped out of the car while he was like, No, don't go. Where's your apartment? Let me come with you. I ran and entered the building, and I had previously taken my keys out of my bag to open the intercom. I didn't turn on the light on the staircase because I didn't want him to see where on the block that I live. It's a small block with only 4 floors. I stood there in darkness and peeked out the window to see if he was gone. He wasn't. He was looking at the block, probably waiting to see exactly where my lights would turn on and know where I lived. I couldn't even enter my apartment because I had left the lights on in my hallway, and he would have seen that. I waited another 5 minutes, and he slowly left. I entered my apartment and locked everything, but I didn't turn on or off any lights, so it wouldn't seem like someone had gotten home or anything. I went to peek out the window to be sure that he indeed had left, but, surprise, he was back and parked this time. I was scared out of my mind. I know that many would say that I should have called the police, but in my country, the police don't really come for stuff like this. They barely show up in an hour if someone is being beaten or something. So, he was there, just sitting there. Then I got a message from an unknown number telling me to come back down because he was waiting for me. I froze and cried at that point. It was like my life could completely change because of a 30 or 40-minute ride with an unstable person. I didn't even know how he could take my number from the Uber app or if he buzzed me when he arrived to pick me up. I don't even remember. But I didn't reply. He sent a few more messages, and I remember that one in particular really creeped me out. He was asking me to at least smoke a cigarette with him on the phone so he could hear me breathing and smoking. I finally texted back saying to leave me alone. He started calling, and I blocked the number. I was afraid that he could get so angry and try to get into the building and find me. I was looking out the window from behind a curtain, and I saw that after I blocked him, when he tried to call and couldn't, he started smashing his phone against his steering wheel. He finally left after 40 minutes or so of just sitting out there. I remained watching for another 2 hours or so, but he didn't return. Thank God. The next day, he messaged and called me from another number, but I blocked that one as well. He even tried once more a year later. I was so surprised, honestly, that I blocked that number too, and I never heard from him again. I'm also glad that I never saw him or his car again either, although right now I don't really remember how he looked or what kind of car he had. I did report everything to the Uber app, and I hope that they took measures. Honestly, I don't understand why nobody before me reported him. It didn't feel like it was the first time that he had done that. It was somehow so easy for him. One of the worst experiences I've ever had. Name Callers by April Lee. Many people in my family have had various experiences with ghosts, spirits, and all sorts of paranormal phenomena. My own experiences are very limited. Bumps in the night, shadowy or misty figures, etc. Nothing really tangible. However, during my teenage years, both me and my really close friend Crystal experienced a frightening phenomenon. Disembodied voices calling to us. Here's my story. My friend Crystal practically lived at my house, and we loved to scare each other. One night, we kept calling each other's names when the other wasn't looking, and it never worked, obviously, and we laughed off our pitiful attempts. We decided to sleep in the sun porch off my bedroom that night, and as I was drifting to sleep, I heard a very distinct voice whispering, "Crystal." I was terrified, but tried to console myself, saying it was just Crystal doing it, and using her own name to throw me off. Unknown to me at the time, she'd heard the exact same thing, and was trying to convince herself it was me. This started a series of events that continued for the next couple of years. Our next encounters with hearing voices happened to us individually, but both occurred at our high school. I could have sworn I heard someone call my name when I was walking down a deserted hallway during class time, only to discover there was nobody around. And Crystal heard whispering and giggling one day in the bathroom. Ironically, it was located near the same spot I'd heard my name called, yet no one else was in the bathroom with her. My next encounter occurred in my bedroom on another one of our sleepovers. I was lying in my bed when I heard my name called in an urgent, frightened whisper. The urgency in the voice had me sitting straight up to look at Crystal and ask, "What?" She was startled out of her own thoughts and gave me a puzzled look. I asked her if she had just called out to me, and she said she hadn't. It was then that I realized the voice hadn't come from where she was sitting, but actually beside me on the bed. We left the room in a hurry. The very next night, we were preparing to go downtown and were standing in my bedroom doorway. I had my back to the door when Crystal's face went white and she started hurrying me along. On the way into town, I asked if she was going to tell me what she saw. She said she didn't see anything, but had heard whispering in her ear. The next occurrence of these strange voices, and they were always female, by the way, was even more strange because someone else heard it as well. At least that verified we weren't totally nuts. Crystal and I and two other friends were sitting in my bedroom. The three of them were sitting side by side on my bed, and I was facing them sitting on the floor with my back to the sun porch door. The other two friends were deep in conversation, and I'd tuned them out as I was daydreaming when I heard my name called. As Crystal was the only one not involved in the conversation, I immediately looked at her, but saw a terrified expression on her face. She hadn't called me. I asked her if she had heard it too, and she said then yes, she had. Then one of my other friends confirmed that she had heard someone call my name as well. The last encounter I'm going to relate happened during sad circumstances. Crystal and I were attending the wake of a teacher that had recently succumbed to cancer, and while sitting in the pew, I was disturbed when I suddenly started to hear, "April, April, April," over and over again, only this time in my head and not out loud. I kept thinking, not now, not at a time like this, but the voice wouldn't stop. Later, as we were returning to school, Crystal said to me, "The weirdest thing just happened in there. I could have sworn I heard someone saying, 'Crystal, Crystal,' over and over again in my head during the service." I told her what had happened to me, and we agreed it was the same voice we'd become accustomed to. We never did find out what was the cause of those startling events, and they eventually died down and no longer occur. Whether we were telepathically calling each other, which doesn't seem to be the case, or someone was trying to contact us from the other side, I guess we'll never know. The Thing on the Road, submitted by Alice. My story begins roughly 5 years ago and has never really ended. Well, at least as far as I'm concerned. Back in 2020, I was a senior in college and had just started dating a guy named Dale that I met on campus a few months earlier. He'd asked me if I'd like to come up to his parents' house and spend Thanksgiving over the holidays. He lived in northern Wisconsin, a small village, a place I'd never been or even heard of, even though I was myself from Wisconsin too. He told me his parents had a beautiful cabin deep in the woods that was just amazing to see and to spend time at. It sounded too good to be true, and I felt this would be a good time to meet his parents in case things ever got serious. I lived on campus, and the drive was roughly about 2.5 hours away. Dale gave me explicit instructions and told me I would love the scenic woods when I got closer to his parents' home. The last 35 minutes of the drive was going to be breathtaking, to use his words. When I was within 5 miles of the cabin, the roads were long, narrow, and winding with many turns and forestry all around. It would have been a hell of a place to have a flat tire. I spent 3 wonderful days there enjoying his parents' beautiful home, the landscaping, and the company of him and his parents. On the day that I had to leave, Dale gave me instructions on how to get back to the main highway. Once on the road, my GPS was not cooperating with me and led me to another road that didn't look familiar, but I took it anyway. What choice did I have, right? I had left roughly about 45 minutes before dusk, and I thought I had plenty of time to get back to the main highway where it would be easy traveling from there on. After about 30 minutes, my phone cut out, probably due to having no towers in the area, and I tried listening to the radio, but there was nothing but static. As it started to get dark, I became very concerned that I was not going in the right direction to find the highway. Just as the sun was setting and it became slightly dark and hard to see, I heard a sound of a raspy growl coming from the right side of my car. At first I thought maybe I had a flat tire, but a flat tire doesn't growl at you. I hadn't passed a car since I left Dale's parents' house, and I was getting very nervous in case my car broke down. The sound of this animal was getting louder, but I couldn't see anything out of my rearview mirror or anything that would have given me a clue of what it was. Suddenly, I heard it bump against the right passenger door and my eyes became fixed on the right side mirror. It was then that I could see an animal on the side of my car keeping pace with me as I was driving probably close to 30 miles an hour. I could only see the top of his back from the top of his head to his tail area, and it was all covered in fur. At first I thought, maybe it's a dog following me, or even a bear running next to me, so I became pretty scared. As I continued to look, this animal was still on the side and making sounds I'd never heard before. As I sped up, it still continued to run alongside me and bump into the side of my car. I wanted to roll down the window to scream at it, but I was definitely afraid that it would jump inside my car. Against my better judgment, I decided to speed up to about 50 miles an hour, which was extremely dangerous on this road. As I sped up, I could now see that the animal was starting to fall back behind the car. And then it happened. I looked into my rearview mirror, and I saw this animal that was now standing on its rear legs and trying to run after me. This was no freaking dog and no freaking bear. It was nothing I had ever seen before or ever thought could exist in this world. It looked like it was about 6 feet tall, and the head of it resembled a wolf with human features on the face. I tried calling Dale, but my cell phone still wouldn't go through. I was scared shitless to the point that I thought I spilled water on my leg until I realized my water bottle was upright and the bottle hadn't spilled. For the next 3 miles, I drove between 40 and 50 miles an hour on the road that was clearly marked 25. All my windows were up and I was praying all the way to get me back to the highway. I was shaking like a leaf and my teeth were making sounds like I was running over gravel. I finally made it to the highway, and I looked for the first exit and noticed a motel right off the interstate. Once at the motel, my service was on my phone, and I was so shaken up I just went to the front desk, asked if they had any rooms available. It didn't matter what the cost was or how clean the rooms were, I just needed to get behind a closed door and get in touch with my family. Once I received my keys and found my room, I locked all the doors, put all the lights on, shut the drapes, and then called my family to let them know what had happened. I was so shaken up that my family had to come and drive 4 hours plus to get me and drive my car home. I called Dale and explained to him what had happened too. He thought it must have just been me overreacting and that it was just a coyote or something. Yeah, right. As I sat there, I was debating on whether or not I should call the sheriff's department, but I was afraid they'd just laugh at me, so I didn't. According to my parents, when they arrived, they saw me sitting up in the bed against the headboard, shaking and just staring at the walls. After telling them my story, the only thing that they could do was comfort me and tell me that it must have been something that there was no explanation for. Since that time, I've never found myself driving anywhere near any type of woods or forests. Dale is now in my rearview mirror after the comforting explanation he gave me that night. And even though it's been 5 years since this happened, I still think about it quite frequently and have nightmares. Sharing the story was very hard for me to do, and I hope nobody ever takes that road somewhere out there in northern Wisconsin. Dog Alerts to Something by T.S. Mom. This happened on Sunday around 10:30 in western Pennsylvania. My son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter live with me on 2 acres in a rural area. We have houses close by, but not that close. I've never felt afraid, and I've been in this house for 37 years. We have 3 dogs, 2 lazy pugs and Dova, a Shar-Pei Beagle mix. He is always on alert. I've always felt safe with him protecting the house, even when my 92-year-old mom was alone when I worked before she passed. Shar-Peis were bred to protect. My kids went to a festival in Maryland on Sunday through Monday, and I was talking to my sister on the phone about events that had happened the previous week that were horrible. That's when I started to smell what I could only describe as burnt cinnamon. Dova immediately perked up from a dead sleep and went to the archway by my front door. I had the big door open for ventilation and the screen down on the screen door. I don't normally lock my doors. Dova immediately started to low grumble and growl. Not a sound I've ever heard from him. The hair was up on the back of his neck, and he was in front of the door but stepping back and growling. I have critters that go through my yard all the time. Deer, possum, raccoons, bunnies, and groundhogs. Dova will go to the door and bark, waiting to go chase them, but it's never fearful like I felt that night. I told my sister I was going to lock the door, and I did. I didn't see anything, but Dova stood between me and the door and growled. I felt uneasy, but not too bad, until I sat back on my recliner to finish talking to my sister. I have a window behind my chair that happened to be open. When I sat back down, Dova jumped up with me and started barking in the most threatening tone I have ever heard from him. They were guttural barks of fear. I blessed myself and said a small prayer, said I love you to my sister, and got off the call. I spent the rest of the evening with Dova on the armrest of the chair. He stayed there most of the night, and I didn't sleep much. I'm not sure what he protected me from. I'm glad he was here. I'm still trying to digest this. I didn't feel any genuine fear, but Dova did.
Hey gang, a little different. I'm actually recording this in my vehicle. Just was inspired by a personal, kind of creepy, more tense than anything else story, but I thought I would share it as I make my way to my day job. I just saw a couple of guys out riding this morning, And it reminded me of a time many moons ago where cycling was a huge part of my life. I would do my shift at the radio station. I would go to Buffalo Sabres practice and then pretty much be on my bike. I was giving up skateboarding in my early 20s and started mountain biking. And that's really all that I did. Lots of races. And man, I do miss that. Stupid side note, the World Cup downhill is actually in Lake Placid this weekend. You might want to check that out. I believe it's on Amazon Prime if you got it. Course is insane. I watched it yesterday, and holy hell, made me miss mountain biking, but not that first section. Holy shit, there's a lot of rocks. Anyway, I was mountain biking, but to train for climbs and that sort of thing, I did a lot of road riding as well. And I rode with my best friend, and we would go out of suburbia into the country. And this time we went kind of way out in the middle of nowhere. We started in Pembroke, New York, and then headed south for, I don't know, 20, 25 miles or so, and did a lot of back roads out there. Now, in a lot of ways, it's safer to ride out there, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes people forget that, you know, the roads are 55 and the cars and trucks are actually doing 65 or 70. And other times you run into assholes like in this story. So my friend and I had walkie-talkies, so if we got separated, we could kind of check in with each other to see where we were. And these really cool little clip-on things. You clip them right onto your jersey. It was pretty slick. And we got separated. He's a much better rider than me. And as I was cruising down, there was no traffic at all. I mean, the middle of nowhere, open fields, and this shitbox brown Cavalier came up behind me, and it wasn't passing me. It was just sitting behind me and laying on its horn. And I'm off on the shoulder, you know, there's plenty of room to go around me, but he's just not doing it. So I'm getting annoyed, but I'm not really going to get into it with somebody out in the middle of nowhere by myself. Finally, he pulls alongside me and yells, "Hey, faggot," or something really rude and not cool at all, and takes off. So I'm like, okay, just another asshole out on the road. So maybe 15 minutes, probably not even 10, 15 minutes, I see the same car coming towards me. And I'm like, okay, here he comes again. Maybe he's, whatever, he's just doing his thing. But he is on my side of the road, heading right at me. Now I've got to make that split-second decision. What do I do here? Do I just eat it and ride into the ditch on the side of the road? Or do I swerve to the left and, you know, maybe he swerves to his right and now he's going to hit me? Really hairy situation. So I'm like, what the fuck do I do here? He turns at the last second after I started to slow down and moved over a little bit. And, you know, now I'm a little nervous because this guy came back, and he came back for me. I have no idea who he is. There's more than enough room on the road for everybody. I follow every rule of the road. I hate the cyclists that don't. They give everybody else a bad name. But anyway, I'm thinking it's over. Then my buddy chirps in to see where I'm at. And he's actually not far ahead of me at all, but I can't see him on the road. And I tell him what's going on. He says he hasn't seen that car. So I keep riding. I'm going to meet up with him, and we're going to probably call it a day because we probably, with the ride back, would have had 60 miles in or so. And lo and behold, here comes shitbox Cavalier again behind me, and he's right behind me again, laying on the horn. He pulls alongside me. Now this time, of course, I look at him. He's got his window down, his passenger window, and I just say, dude, what the fuck is your problem? And he says, do you want to take care of this right now? I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go. So I start slowing down, and thankfully, he sees my buddy coming back our way, and I think he put two and two together and realized that now all of a sudden it's going to be 2-on-1. I probably could have kicked the shit out of the guy myself. I was in impeccable shape back then. But anyway, he changes his mind, yells another F you or whatever at me, and it takes off down the road. And we didn't see him all the way back, which was great. But yeah, no ghosts, monsters, or anything like that. But man, I'm telling you what, when you are all alone out in the middle of the country, riding your bike, minding your own business, and somebody who obviously has very bad intentions, who actually tries to kill you or run you off the road, yeah, that'll put a little zip in your step, or in your ride, as it were. But yeah, I've got a lot more cycling stories, and I know people once in a while ask me about personal stories, so I thought I would throw that in this episode. Everybody was fine in the end, but man, for 5, 10, 15 minutes there, I had no idea which way that was going to go. Anyway, everybody, be safe out there. Take care of each other.
Hey gang, thanks for listening to this episode. If you have a true scary story of any nature that you'd like me to narrate, email it to unclejosh.truescarystories@gmail.com. I read them all. And we're at that time of year again. If you have a true scary Halloween story, please send it my way. It's starting early this year. Already have a couple of stories that have been submitted, so thank you to those of you who have, but I would love to have your stories looking for a great Halloween extravaganza this year. If you're catching this on YouTube and you like what you saw or heard, give the video a thumbs up. Maybe leave a comment, let me know what you thought of the stories, and if you're not a subscriber, why not be a subscriber too while you're at it? If you'd like to support what I'm doing a step further, find a link to my Patreon page in the description, or consider getting some Uncle Josh and Campfire Crew merchandise. There's a link to my TeePublic storefront in the description as well. Everyone, be excellent to each other. And until next time, be wary of things that go bump in the night. It could be anything. A ghost, a monster, or the guy next door.